You are on and we are live, ready to rock.
Well, very interesting. We lost power in our house. There's a thunderstorm going on, so this is going to be relatively interesting. And it went just right on time. It just went at 2 minutes before we went live.
Perfect. It's great. Hey, I'm sure there's a lesson in here somewhere, right? The show must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on. So now my iPhone doesn't have internet, so got my iPad. We were able to, get that, and I'll just stand over here, which is a little bit more light. So I think on my iPad I should be able to share my screen a little bit, but
okay, yeah, or we can have Megan share. We'll figure things out. So, yeah, we've got people on. We're live. Appreciate you making it work, Albert. I'm gonna do quick note for everybody involved. So number one, we are recording the session and we will get you guys the recording once we get it processed and get all that happen. So if you've registered, you'll get the recording. It'll also go into the Fault Boss Success Group when ready. Also, you're welcome to ask questions as we go, but we are going to answer them all at the end of this segment. So I'm going to do a quick interview with Albert, learn a little bit more about his business and his background. And then we're going to dive right into how he keeps his team accountable. It's a pretty great system that I think you guys will dig. And we're just going to roll with it with our technology stuff. So Albert, why don't you tell us just a little bit about kind of your basic background and how you got into this crazy business?
Yeah. So, I am a second generation realtor. My father kind of was already in real estate, and something that I don't know is that right out of high school, I was supposed to be in real estate, and I was 18. I didn't know what a mortgage was, and I was taking a real estate class, and I really wanted to pass this. And for 2 years straight, I tried to pass that exam. I must have failed, I kid you not, at least 7 times. And this was right out of high school. This is year 2000, so I didn't make it. But what I did get is an opportunity to work for a real estate broker. And as an assistant, I literally started from the bottom, picking up phones. From there, I got an opportunity to work for a title company, started to process files. And after a few years of just kind of moving that, I was, moved up that ladder. 8 years of my total 20 years of real estate experience has been through the title industry. So I was a real estate paralegal. I had opened up my own title company at one point in the back. Young and ambitious, I opened up my title company in 2007. So
perfect. It was great timing.
It was great. It was like nothing's going to stop us, right? So that took place, and I came to a great realization that realtors are the ones that control a lot of the business. And I got my real estate license at the end of fourth quarter of 2008. I think it was October or November. And I passed the exam this time at the first shot because now I had 8 years of experience and things made a little bit more sense to me. So as that went along, 2009 was my first full year in real estate. Was able to make over $100,000 in my first year in real estate. And pretty much what I did was applied a lot of the hustle that I had learned during the title, right? Door knocking. As a title agent, I was door knocking. I was looking for business. So I noticed that, it paid off really well, the efforts, and, carrying costs were not as big. So I don't know how far, you want to go into this, but I started at that company. It was a pretty big company here down locally with a few offices. I finished that year number 2 in the office. The next year I was the number 1 agent. A few years later, then I went to a small mom and pop shop, just to try to get 100% of my commission. And I was like, yeah, 100% all the way. And 2015, my daughter was born. And I was like, well, how can I take this to the next level? And I heard something called Teams, and it was by Keller Williams. And 2015, my daughter was born, and I joined Keller Williams, and I learned about Teams, and it was my ambition. It was my dream to, like, I had never heard of Dream. I had never heard or been shown how a team functions. I'd never seen it before. And when I saw it, I just couldn't look back. And that's kind of what my focus was. And we built a team. And last year, Our team has been around now. 2020 is our third year as a team. And last year, our team was able to finish 17.5 million in production and among the top 100 teams in Keller Williams for the state of Florida.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. So let's unpack the team a little bit in the sense of like, what was your, I mean, I know you said in 15, you kind of, the concept came along of like, hey, I want to be a team. What was your first move into that beyond your mindset? Obviously your mindset's a huge part of that. You were ready, but what'd you do to get it?
All right. Well, I don't know if anybody here in the webinar can relate, but I'm very analytical, right? And I got ready to get ready. I mean, that happened for a long time. If you do the math, 2015, the idea and the concept came about. In 2015, I made the team name. Like I had a logo and branding for AV. We were called AV sales teams back then. And I was excited, you know, that happened in 2015. However, the first agent hire was not until like end of 2017, right? There was a lot that held me back. One of the things was I didn't want to hire someone in which my environment for them to be productive in was not set. And one of the things that I did between 2015 and 17, aside from, you know, studying how to run teams and going to classes and everything else like that, was committing to a CRM. I kid you not, during the 2015 and 17, I easily invested over $15,000 to $20,000 in CRMs. I wanted to try them all out, the expensive ones, the cheapest ones. I even was in communications with developers to make my own CRM because I wasn't, you know, I like this from this one, I didn't like this from that one. I was that obsessive personality that I wanted the best with and everything that was in there. And as other systems started to fade out, Follow Up Boss was always there. And then as I started looking further, everything else, it wasn't that the things weren't there. It's just, they were there. It just, I had to use them differently. So that's kind of happened in those 2 years. You know, I wanted it, but I had to do a lot of research to be able to create the nest, if you will, the hub where people would be in a conducive environment that they can produce more.
Right. No, and I love that you mentioned it that way because you're definitely right. A lot of the people are on the opposite end of the spectrum where they kind of jump and then build the plane on the way down. I can relate to what you're saying is more of the let's figure this out first before we launch. So and that's part of the whole problem with the team thing anyway, right? Is there is no one way to do it. There's no one clear path to do it. But I lean towards the way you did it because I think to have some of those systems in place before you bring the people on makes sense, but there's a fine line between, you know, you have to do both at some point, right? So
yeah. And you know what I think it's funny about that, Lee, is that I think maybe you and I have a DISC personality. If anybody in here is familiar with the DISC personalities, right? You have the analyticals, you have just the socials, right? You have the ones that just do things, right? And I think that regardless of what your personality is, because I've seen others, I've seen others that have done good with teams and they have a deep personality and they'll go and they learn with the bumps and they're getting it done. Truth is, we probably would have found out, you know, a lot sooner. It didn't take me 2 years. It took me 2 years to find a CRM. You know what I mean? Like it's a little slower. So if you're watching this webinar, the reason that I share that story is because a lot of people like to know that take it from someone that's done not just the research, but has spent my own money researching other CRMs. This is the one that I personally like to commit to, you know? So if there's some people out there that don't like to do the research, take a look at it. I know Follow Up Boss has a free trial and all these other great stuff on there. I just think it works, you know, for everything that we do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really good in the team environment. So did you bring on a licensee first? Was it like a buyer's agent or an assistant? Buyer's agent. What prompted that in your brain? Was that like, I've got too many leads or you met somebody who's the right person? Like, how did that happen?
So now we're going to a personal level. Some of you may be freaking out like, oh man, Albert's a little bit messed up. So the reality of it, Lee, is that my systems by that time were already pretty dialed in. For the most part, you know, we've evolved a lot from 2007, from when I thought my systems were dialed in to where we are now. So it's a constant evolution. But what actually prompted that, so this is a little bit something at a personal level. I struggled a lot to open up what I have created to allow someone to come in, because I was always fearful that someone would come in, replicate what I'm doing, and just run off into it. That was always one thing that always held me back. And look, timing, I think it's called, I call it God's timing, right? Like, things just happened at the perfect time. Had a very good friend of mine, Mark Cintron, who's one of our lead buyers agents on the team right now, who, I mean, he's killing it. He was, he was able to net over $120,000 in his second year in real estate as a buyer's agent on a team, right? Last year. But he had came in, he was originally in Madrid. He had come back. And when he came back, he was curious about real estate. And we had this conversation. It was a very, open conversation about, this is how I would expect, for this to work out. I'm going to be sharing all this, and this is kind of what I expect. And I had coaches at the time, and, they were helping me out, kind of onboarding my first, the first buyer's agent that came on the team. And it was really, I'm not going to lie to you, it was a really good struggle, but I was so happy that it was him, because that allowed me to trust other people, right? And
I love that you're saying this, because I think everyone struggles with this. I have a lot of these conversations with people too, but I don't think people have it very publicly. The idea that they're going to take our leads, they're going to take, but personally, I believe you have to be in an abundance mentality to really grow a team right. You've got to want them to succeed. In theory, you should want to ultimately move out of production, in my opinion, and have other people have more success than you. So, but I'm glad you're referencing that, because I think a lot of people struggle with that growth-wise of like, what if I bring people on and they learn all my systems or they take all my leads? And, it's a realistic concern, but it can't stop you from doing it.
The reality of it is that, and the reason that I like sharing this is because I believe that as a community, we are one, right? We all got to help each other out. That's why we're doing this webinar. That's why you're doing what you're doing and what I'm doing, right? I think that sometimes we gravitate to stories from different experiences from different people. I know that where I'm at today has been because of that, right? Because of people that I know and their stories, and it's kind of encouraged me. And this is just for anybody out there that is, is struggling and wants to build a team, and it's just constant struggle. I've done a lot of things in my career, both real estate and off real estate, and I can say definitely it's one of the biggest struggles that I've done is build a team. It's constant, there's a lot in there. So when it comes to that abundance mentality, and I like that you said that, right? I've heard that before. And I'm sure a lot of people here, you might have heard it too, but it's totally different when you now have to pull the trigger and you have to onboard someone, and actually doing it.
So right. When it's your checkbook, it's different when it's your checkbook. Yeah. It's great to give advice on Facebook, right?
Yeah, it's neat to put it on your Instagram stories and get a lot of likes and or reading on a book, highlight it and share it with others, but actually doing it. But I'm really thankful for Mark, because it opened up my heart and my mind to be able to start hiring others. And it wasn't after having him onboarded for about a year or so, or 6 months or so, that we now saw what that dynamic looked like, that we were starting to really hire other people.
Yeah. So that was my next question. So what's the team look like now?
The team what it looks like right now is we have 3 agents that are what we call our constant prospecting agents, right? So that's Mark, Lynette, and Frank, right? So they're the ones for all our lead sources. They're getting the leads, right? From any of our lead sources, right? We also use the Follow Up Boss team account for dialers, right? Where for incoming calls from Realtor.com, Zillow, or for sales signs, anything that's a lead source. Like, you can't find my cell phone number anywhere now in any of our marketing, right? I give them access to any of our marketing for our postcards or anything. And they're the 3 that are going to be handling that. Okay. We do have my dad, right? So my dad brought me into this industry. He's still with us, right? And I'm very thankful for that, because I get to learn a lot from him. He's just not, he follows his own way of doing it, right? Like, like he just like, he's an OG, right? He likes doing it his way at his stuff. And look, he has a Follow Up Boss account, but he doesn't call from there. Like I just have it in there just to kind of like keep track of a few things. But we do have other agents like my dad and my brother who just recently got his real estate license. But he's also trying to transition because he still has another full-time job and trying to go in there. So right now, if you look at our team photo, you're going to see that it's not just three, right? It's myself, it's the three agents that I mentioned to you, plus my dad, and we're trying to get a headshot of my brother now. But that's what it looks like right now. So
that's great.
When
and oh no, go ahead. You're good.
All the numbers that we're going to see right now is going to be pretty much those three agents: Mark, Lynette, and Frank.
Cool. Yeah. And I was going to ask you, Albert, is it okay? Megan can actually share your account on her screen. Is that okay if she goes into reporting on your account? So we'll flip to that. And while she's going to hop on and share that, while we're getting to that, why don't you overview what you guys are doing as far as your conversations and your accountability with your agents?
So thank you for asking that, because I think that's the part where a lot of people really want to dial in on how to be able to get effective. So we, for the longest time, let me tell you what we do now and how it evolved, right? So what we do now is very simple. We focus on making sure everybody on the team has 5 conversations. So Megan, if you're on my account, if you can go into reporting and you go to calls, right? And then you go to last week as an example, right? So if you go to reporting, right, and go to calls, and you can do the last 30 days. You can use last week to just, right? So last week, no, not the last 7 days. I like doing the last week one. Last week, there it is, right? So and then what we do is conversations. Try to put it from top to bottom. Just click the conversation button. Yeah. So what we try to do there is our goals get evolved. Usually, our previous goal for quite a few time was 20 blue conversations. You notice that when you're looking at this conversation, if you can zoom in, Megan, you'll see that when you have conversations, you have a number in black, which is 28 for Lynette right now, and 24 blue, right? So we call them blue people. And the idea is this, right? Everybody here had above 25 conversations in black, but not necessarily 25 blue. So last week, our goal was making sure that we reach 20 blue in 1 week. And what does that mean? Blue means, notice how, like, let's say Lynette, right? She has 28 black. That means she's had a total of 28 conversations throughout the week. That's great. A conversation on Follow Up Boss is a conversation longer than 5 minutes. And I find this to be a very important metric, because the metric shows me that these are meaningful conversations. This is not a connect. This is not a call. So the one thing that the entire team focuses on is making sure you have 5. It's a very simple number, very round number, 5 conversations every single day. And by the way, that should also be throughout the week a total of 20 blue, right? This week, we just upped it up to 25 blue, right? Because they're consistently making those numbers. But that's kind of what we focus on. Every single day, they got to do that. I can show you different ways how we break that down, because we do have some logistics to it. Because everybody's like, oh, okay, wow, really? That's the one thing that was so, if you break it down, it makes the goal of the agent a lot simpler. And as a matter of fact, Megan, if you can show last 14 days, as an example, one of the things that I check in with my team every single day is where you at this week, where you are in the last 14 days. Now, notice that when the blue conversation is not as high as some people would think, because if I spoke to someone, the blue, I can't double dip on the blue. If I spoke to someone last week and I speak to them again this week, that blue number is not going up. The black number is, but the blue number is not.
Right. So those are unique conversations, right?
Those are unique conversations. That's a better way to put it. I like calling them blue people. So the idea here is, what good is it if you're having a bunch of conversations, but it keeps on being with the same people over and over again? You're not building your connections, right? So the way that this should look like for us before, if you look at Megan, you can do the last 30 days, right? So now at 20 a week, that means you should be at 40 for 14 weeks, and you should be at 80 in the last 30 days, right? So now if you see there, Frank is at 87 blue. He's right on target. Lynette right now is 10 short for her monthly 30-day goal, and Mark is just right on goal. So a lot of times you can be on track with what you did today. So sometimes, for example, a conversation that I can have with Lynette today, right, would be, hey, you're on track for hitting your daily goal. You're on track also for hitting your weekly goal. Good jobs, kudos. But look at how behind you are for your 30. It gives clarity that even though I've been doing the activities of hitting the 5 conversation, I am short on the relationship portion of things, you know, and that's such a big metric because what we've done is we have the FUB dialer for many years. And when you look back, if you look at, do last year, Megan, just do everybody there, do last year. Right. So all last year, so let's take an example. Mark was able to do over $120,000 in net income, right? It took 314 people to talk to. That's a metric that I can take home and say, hey, anybody else wants to replicate this? You're going to try to, at least for our metrics on our platform, you got to look at your metric and your platforms, right? These are, the blue people are unique conversations. So throughout the last year, he had 314 unique conversations with unique people, right? So the black number is a lot higher, it's 552. But it was really 314 people. So that gives you a metric. So now a conversation I would have with Mark this year, hey, if you want to double that, right, what can you be doing? And the easiest thing that we find to focus on is conversations. So just increase the blue people. And if you can see this year, Megan, if you do this year on the thing there, yeah, you're doing last year right now, just do this year. And you see this year, Mark is already at 207 blue, right? Frank is already at 173, you know, like everyone's on track to be able to blow up their business. That's why one of the other metrics that we focus on is on agent activity. If you can go to click on agent activity, right there to the left, all the way. Yeah, right. We were able to book quite a significant amount of appointments. Let me see. Appointments set for this year has been 108, right? Yeah, as you can see there, their activity has gone up by conversations. But conversations I know lead to appointments. So putting the carrot to be conversations naturally translates to appointments. And I know I just kind of went on a ramble there. So if there's questions, because I'm on my iPad, guys, power is still not back up on my house.
Yeah, let's acknowledge the fact of how well you're doing in the current situation. He lost power as we were going live. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, my house is completely pitch dark.
That's so crazy. Hey, I wanna hop back for a split second because I feel like you've kind of got this magical thing that all these people are searching for, and that's a single metric that is easy to look at, it's easy to measure, and it's easy to build really simple business planning. Hey, if you want to double your income or do 25% more business next year, all you have to do is turn this number into 300 instead of 215. So I mean, you kind of brush through it like it's no big deal. And it's awesome that you just do this because it's amazing. But I just want to acknowledge that like a lot of people are not doing this. And it's really, really amazing what you've done here. So I love that you went through it so quickly. Like it's no big deal, but like everyone in this call needs to be doing this. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you keep people accountable to hitting these numbers or to staying after these numbers?
So that's a very, very, very key point, right? So one of the things that interestingly we have found as a better way of doing business is ironically doing it from home, right? So when we were in the office, the way we would do it is we would have a big screen and it will show everybody's numbers live, right? And the idea is agents usually, right, by default, have somewhat of a competitive like desire. They all want to beat each other, right? And what you should do is create a healthy environment. Keyword, no bashing on people. Like the idea is like always wanting to one up, the other person. So what we did back in the office is we had a big old screen. We would show our numbers live. We would use a FUB leadership board, right? And it would just show like, oh man, who's winning here, who's winning there, and all those type of things, right? You can just, do that, right? And then, that kind of gets you going. That kind of gets you going, and that's how we would do it there. Before the FUB leadership board, we would actually do we would get a board, and our administrative assistant would update that board manually every single day in the morning, so everybody can see where everybody was at on the same metric that you see on call reporting. How many conversations, how many dials, how many appointments, how many thank you cards did you send out, all those type of things. And luckily it's evolved. The way that we do it now is we have a team huddle every single day, Monday through Friday at 12 noon, every single day, team huddle. And I do a check-in at 3 o'clock and at 5 o'clock. Okay. And the reasons for that, and there's no magic to the number. It's just right now, most of them are not necessarily prospecting in the morning. A lot of them are prospecting through the afternoon. And I just kind of want to create that. Sometimes, and it's not necessarily an always type of thing, I also do like another check-in at 8 o'clock where everybody's kind of like finishing off, or 7 o'clock. And I let everybody know, here is where everybody else, stands for the day. And usually what happens is people that have already hit their goal would be, okay, cool. They're good to go. Like, this is it, and the ones that are short and they have like that extra to go, they'll probably go that extra mile, or they'll get ready to go push it off tomorrow. But they love to see where everybody else is at.
Yeah.
To the point,
awesome.
to the point that even if I'll give you examples, any of them, even to the point where, let's just say Lynette is winning the day, right? And everybody else had meet their weekly and, monthly goal. Like, everyone's on track on their goal. But because Lynette's on top and someone else is short by 1 or 2, they're like, yeah, let me try to see if I can, it becomes a game and it becomes fun.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. Is it comes from it, instead of being a constant nagging about, did you make your calls? Did you make your calls? Did you make your calls? It becomes like a fun group, team, gamified session. So, and I'm curious, because I don't know the answer to this. Are you guys, is that a full group in those check-ins? Or are you like emailing them? Like, how do you do those check-ins?
It's literally, we all have iPhones, and I have an iPhone group chat, and it's we do that, or we do WhatsApp, but it's a group chat. All of us that are making the calls. So you see some other people in there, like we got our lender in here, and we got other people in there, but like, I don't want to bother them on the group chat with things that they don't have to be, accountable to. So we just do, like, it's just the 3 agents that you see right up there,
Right. But they know it's coming. They know at noon, you're going to text out like, hey, so-and-so's hitting their goals and so-and-so's not, or so-and-so's winning.
So the 12 o'clock noon is a Zoom call. We jump on Zoom. I want to see everybody's face. And the idea is we encourage each other. It's very simple. We talk about what was your win, and what's an area of improvement, and what are you thankful for? So they all go off. They say, something that they had a win on, something that they would like to have an area of improvement on, and something that they're, thankful for. So just so we can talk about gratitude.
Nice.
And then
how long is that? It's like 4 people, right? 4 or 5 people?
Yeah, so it's 3 of them and me. So usually it's 15 to 30 minutes, usually more closer on the 30-minute side. Sometimes we fool around, but especially right now, it's just good. It's like that. I mean, for myself, I love it. Like, it's a good way of just seeing other people and having, a good time. Like, we kind of really want to create that family environment and a fun environment. And we have a good time. And, I asked, is there any questions and stuff like that? And then usually, twice or 3 times a week, I would have an encouraging message, so I'll bring some type of, food for thought, if you will, like, hey, here, I saw this is what I thought about it. It was motivational. What did you see? What was your aha from it? So it's not necessarily just always every single day, just numbers. Yeah. I break it up a little bit where, 2 or 3 times a week, usually Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays is usually when it's supposed to be, where there's a short message of inspiration there, right? Like, just
right?
Hoorah, let's go.
Well, and you know what I would say to that, what I think the magic in it, what you're doing there is that it's consistency. They know that's coming. They know, you know, they expect you. I guarantee you, if you stop sending out that motivational message, people would miss it. People will be like, what's wrong with Albert? Is he okay? He hadn't sent us a message, you know, in a couple of days. So I love that. I know we're going to get this question and I just want to hit it off. Frankly, I have the same question. Now let's get into what, like, that's great that you can help them identify who to call. It's great that you're tracking it, but like, what do they say? Do you guys use scripts? Do you coach them on that? Do they ask you, like, how do you help them with what to say?
Right. So that is a very great question, and then the reality of it is that it's an evolution, right? When you get someone, all the agents on our team, they started from scratch with, you know, so it's not like they had a prior real estate career or prior experience, so they all start. And pretty much what we try to do is we need to break everybody's fear of calling. So a lot of people, when they start with our team, they start calling their friends and family. You know, the idea is first break the fear of calling, and then when they start, for them to earn the right to calling like new opportunities, I want to be able to see that they can hold a conversation. And holding a conversation, we don't have scripts. If you know, like, as far as, hey, always say this in the beginning and always say this in the middle and always say this on the way out. What we do have is somewhat of a general intro, right? And it's very simple. It'll be like, hey, Lee, what's going on? You know, I'm not sure if you remember me, but you were shopping around some homes here in Miami Lakes. I just wanted to, you know, call in and check in on you and see how everything was going along with your home search. And, you know, that's about it as far as a quote unquote script. But what we do teach them is questions. They need to know how to ask questions. I'm a believer that the best conversation is when the person is talking more than you are. So it's just pretty much teaching them to be able to ask great questions. Right now, I know Chris Smith released a nice book, which is type of questions to ask. Some of the people on the team have been reading that. But it's just questions. Know how to ask questions and continue the conversation. Like, who are they? Like, not necessarily non-real estate questions, by the way. Right, hey, you know, who and how do you transition to that? Because you don't be like, hey, Lee, it's Albert. So yeah, like, what do you do?
What are you doing?
Like, yeah,
I'm sitting like here in the dark on a webinar. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That I totally agree with you. And it's funny to me that people always seem to be so lost at the what to say. You know, it's like, people will talk. If you just ask them, you know, hey, what's going on? Hey, do you need anything? Oh, your kid's, you know, on the honor roll or playing soccer. Like, people, it's not that hard to have. And I love that you frame these as conversations, because they are conversations. This isn't a hard sell. This isn't a, do you or anyone you know need to buy a house. It's like, hey, how are you? I'm just checking in on you. And the fact that they're doing it consistently makes it even less weird, right? It's not like you call them after 3 years and are like, hey, what's going on? You're doing it consistently.
So one of the things that we're doing right now is, you know, if anybody wants to write down as far as quote unquote tactical, as far as a graph, if anybody read the book, The Conversion Code, it talks about this particular tactic, right? And it's number one is being able to ask a question, okay? You dig deep. It's called the digging deep philosophy. And whatever that question is, you follow its string all the way 5 steps down. And then whenever they respond to the question, you repeat their answer, not necessarily verbatim, like, you know, oh, they told you a bunch of other things. You just get the key points. You repeat the answer, and it's kind of reaffirming it, and you pivot onto your next question. So, you know, a lot of times it can be like, oh, you know what, you know, curious, you know, what did you like about, you know, what did you like or what did you dislike about this home? And they're going to tell you what they like or what they dislike. Oh, wow. Well, I see that you dislike the, you know, the fact that it's blank, you know. I'm curious, could you please, you know, can you tell me a little bit more? Why is that so important to you, right? I'm the original question, and I'm digging down to it, right? And then that answer is going to lead down to another level 3 of that question, right? And I do the same thing, repeat it and affirm it, and then just digging down into it. But this comes from genuinely wanting to care for people. You know, one of our team models that we have on our, you know, we say consistently is happy people making other people happy. Like for that to happen, we need to, you know, we need to try to be living, you know, our best, like that's why like I try to care on them, right? Just make sure they're okay. But I want to make sure that they're making them happy. This is not about a sale. A lot of times we have one of the quote unquote scripts, if you will, that we tell them to say is, look, I'm not really interested in if you wanting to buy or sell within the first year or two. Like, I'm really looking to build new relationships, even if you never even buy or sell with us. And that is a tactical way to let them know that my interest is not if you buy or sell with us.
Right.
No,
it sounds like you've totally built that into your culture, which I think is amazing. I mean, that's, again, it's another thing that I feel like, I don't know if you've just done it naturally or it's just your person, but like, that's a really hard thing to get. And I think the idea that you've created a culture where your agents are truly contacting people out of kindness and wanting to have a good conversation with them, it does ultimately pay dividends, but you have to be doing it for the right reasons. And I think I love all the things, that you mentioned here. We've got actually a good chunk of questions, and I'd love for you to be able to answer them. So sure. I think we could stay in screen share here because I think some of them might be related. But Megan's going to dive into some of the questions, and we're just going to lob some questions at you and go from there.
Sure. Hit me up.
Yeah. So, and I just want to say too, listening to you, it's so inspiring because I think there's like 3 components here. It's like culture, leadership, and then systems. Like you've got it down. And it's so clear. So.
Well, I learned a lot from you guys. FUB has been, you guys do a lot of webinars. I mean, this doesn't happen overnight, but, being surrounded by the right systems and the people, it helps a lot. So thank you guys at Follow a Boss and you as well, Megan. I think I remember speaking to Megan when we first started my account.
That's probably true. Been around a while. So lots of good questions. A couple of questions are just around, and feel free to share what you want to share, of course, but around your lead sources, like which lead sources you're using, is a question we get at Follow Up Boss a lot as well.
Lead sources for us. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, right? I built, if you go back to 2009, my first full year as a real estate agent, made over 100,000 in my first year. Like, what did I do? I did internet leads. I just love internet leads, right? I believe the longevity of it takes a lot longer to convert, right? But for us, we do a lot of Facebook, we do Google, right? But we're probably 90% right now Facebook, and we just do a lot of Facebook leads. And look, yeah, some of them you're gonna run through, they're not interested or they're not this and that. But again, it's just building relationships, because those relationships, down the road can be an opportunity. And I mean, for us, is Facebook easily number one. Do we have a Zillow account? Yes, we have a Zillow account, right? I do not pay for real. Let me put it to you easier this way for any skeptical people. Last year, the only source that we paid to get leads from was Facebook. Okay, so you're gonna be like, oh, but what about So we were pretty committed to the thing that for us just always kind of worked.
Yeah, I think that's good. So this one's a really good question, actually. Do you have repercussions in place when agents aren't meeting their required goals? And I know you sort of touched on this, but it's a good one.
That's a very good one. Yes, we do. They get no leads. So if you do not hit your 20 or 25, right? Because now it's 25. Number one, you get no new leads. Number two, you're not included in the opportunities that come in from, like, so we get a lot of income because we have a big, we have a lot of reviews, right? So we have a lot of reviews on Zillow and a few other sites. So people search for us. And when they do, like, they call. And if you didn't hit your goal for last week, you're not in rotation for those calls.
Got it. Simple. Yeah, it's straightforward. That's good. So I've seen this question pop up a couple times, like so one is around like during that prospecting time when you guys are talking about having those conversations, like who are you calling? Is it a mixture of new leads, past clients? Like what is that mix? I guess that's the first question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we've done in our database, right, is so we work with Ylopo. And one of the things that we do with Ylopo is it identifies what we call hand raisers. And a hand raiser does something on your site that is a significant activity that now, cues you up to say, hey, look, so-and-so is being active. You should probably reach out, right? And that creates a task. So if you don't have Ylopo, you can easily replicate that with, any system that you're doing. The idea is create tasks, right? And tasks for high level activities. Don't create tasks on need to double check, blah, 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 blah. Create tasks only for very, very, very high level things that you need to be doing. So what we do is everyone in our team, they start their day with clearing out their task. And then from there, we go into different smart lists that we created that helps them go into their next, and then the next, and then the next, right? But it's very important that you address the people that need to be addressed first.
Awesome. So, and then in terms of that, I guess this correlates to what you're saying, but time frame for most of the leads that you're working with, especially because, you're doing a lot of Facebook. So what are you seeing for time frame? Are these a lot of people that you're nurturing over time? What is that kind of that ratio for like the people you're dealing with that are like hot now versus nurturing?
That's a great question. Look, as far as what those, and I wish I would have power and I would find way to kind of just dig. There is probably, long story short, I don't really dive super deep into telling that to the team or anybody else, because what does it matter what the average is? Because I can tell you, look, right now we have two very hot potentials, right? They are a seller and a buyer, and they came from Facebook, right? And we're talking about almost $2 million in business. And that was maybe they got converted within a month period. Is that normal? No, that's not normal, right? But like, it happened. And then you have others that, look, I know, Mark has a great testimony on a particular person that it took him about 7 months of consistent calling. Like, he did over 40 calls to this particular person. And on the 41st call or something like that is like, look, I've seen your consistency. What do you have to say? Okay, here's them out. Come on over. And we got a listing and a buyer. And then they referred us over their family. Like, look, I rather encourage someone to focus on doing the activities and not necessarily on, how long does this take and that take, because you're sowing a forest. And those seeds, if you're doing it with love, if you're doing it with truly caring for people, they will grow. It doesn't necessarily matter if I have one. Look, I have leads that I closed last year that were original leads from when I got back in 2010. Like, it doesn't matter, what the average is, as long as you're consistently always doing. That's why we focus on the one thing to do every single day. Because as long as I'm doing that, I'm moving the needle.
I love it. I think it's such a good answer. And I really like this question. So we talked about sort of what you do when your team isn't hitting their goals, but do you reward your team if they are, and how so?
Do I reward the team if they are? That is such a great thing. I was actually, I think the team is on the call right now, so maybe they're going to get a preview. Have I done it before in the past? No. We do celebrations in the, like we do like end of year, right? Celebrations where, we just kind of live it up a little bit. And, like last December of this year, we did K1 Racing. We, did a big planning conference. We had a special guest. I occasionally get, when we're at the office, our usual work environment, right? Our usual work environment where everybody's together would be at the office. And like, it's not that I'm quote unquote rewarding. It's just, the kindness out of it. It just, we'll get lunch together and it'll be on me, but it's not like, oh, do this and you get lunch. It's just,
right.
I mean,
they get closings. They get closings, right? Isn't that the answer?
Yeah.
You get closings.
Yeah. But is there something set? What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing it from my iPhone now because my iPad is losing battery.
Tough going for you today. And you're like keeping it rolling. So that's awesome. We have a lot of questions
do you see me on my iPhone?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So if you want, mute the iPad one and then just go here.
Yeah,
there you go.
I did that. You're good.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So we have a bunch of questions about your SMART lists and action plans. I'm still hearing a little bit of an echo. Are you guys hearing that? Hey, Albert.
I think that was you coming.
I'm here.
I muted him for a second. It was you coming.
Okay.
We're good.
Got it. Okay, cool. So we've got questions about your SMART lists and action plans. I don't think we have to dig too deep into this, but maybe it's something that we can kind of put together for a follow-up to share with folks. I don't know if there's any specific SMART list that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so SMART lists, we do create them. So let me give a few tips on SMART lists, right? Number one is exactly that. Have them numerical. If you are a solo agent or you are a team leader, you just want to be able to create a SMART list of what makes logical sense for what you want people to do when they when you come in, right? And then what do you want to be the last thing to do? For us, I'll give you an example of what we do. There's no secret or extra magic to it. Number one, everybody starts on task. Okay, so you got to clear off your task. Number two is then you go to number two is technically SMART list number one. And SMART list number one is who did you follow up on via task that they didn't respond, they would show up on the SMART list. And there's a way that we do it because we had a particular tag and then it shows up on that SMART list. Then number two, it shows up people that have shown positive interest, right? Through communications that we have, right? That they've shown positive interest, but we have not spoken to them in 21 days via text messages, emails, or whatever, right? So these are people that have shown me interest, right? That I've talked to them before, shown me interest, and I have not reached out to them in 21 days. It's kind of like, hey, man, make sure you reach out to this person. And then from there on out, then we start looking at to like newer leads. And we just want to make sure that we reach out to them. So there's a SMART list for new leads that haven't been contacted in a certain amount of time, and you should be reaching out, you know? And then it just kind of goes on to that. Then you have, you know, hot leads that you haven't contacted that should be contacted. Then you have warm leads that you haven't contacted. And these are within particular periods. So usually hot leads, we're trying to do twice a week, right? So there's a SMART list, and Follow Up Boss has a great integration with this. This is my favorite way of doing any SMART list. And it's, it knows when the last time you called. So if I call them on Monday, it won't remind me probably until Wednesday or Thursday that if I need to be able to clear out this list, I need to call them one more time, right? So hot leads get called 1 or twice a week. Warm leads get called every 14, 21 days or so. And then colder leads get called around 45 days, give or take.
Awesome. So we have a ton of questions, and I know we'll probably try and wrap up soon. So maybe we go through a couple more.
Yeah, are there any specific ones? I see some that could be answered quickly, and then maybe we can follow up with anybody else that had
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a good one because I see it kind of twice asked differently, but like, how are you balancing your time, like the time you need for showings and prospecting? And then the other one is also around that, handling timing with your agents, making calls, taking leads, going out in the field.
So great question, everybody. So normally, and I would say normal because this is, you know, prior to COVID, the way we would run our team is that everyone meets at the office at 9:15 in the morning. Okay, 9:15, everyone in the morning, we huddle up, and Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we would have team meetings. So we would have the hoorah. It would be 15 minutes. We just encourage, and that's what we do. That's the main purpose for it, to encourage them and just kind of conquer the day. So by 9:30, they're back on their desk, and we're hitting the phones from 9:30 to 12:30, 3 hours, right? So we sit down, the big old screen is there, and we go. Now, how are we doing it now during COVID? in COVID time, what we're doing is I noticed that schedule's a little different. Everybody's got kids, right? It's just the mornings don't look the same, right? And so what we do is, whoever wants to call in the morning calls in the morning. Right now, every agent can call whenever they want. The goal is not at what time they're going to call. Their goal is to hit the 5 blue for the day, and the 20 for the week, and then the 40 for the 2 weeks, and the 80 for the month. That's really what the goal is, and that's what we just check in on them throughout the day.
Awesome. So we have just a couple on in terms of like, are you providing the leads to your agents, right? And
yes.
How are they distributed?
So all leads are, so there's 2 types of leads. There are registered leads, people that sign up on Facebook, on Google, on Redfin, on Zillow, Realtor.com, anything that's a website that can register for a lead. They all get it via round robin, right? So one for you, then the next one for this person, then the next one for this person, and so on, right? Now, incoming calls, we have decided that the most important thing for incoming calls is the consumer. The consumer needs someone to pick up. So for incoming calls from Zillow, Realtor, or anybody else, first come, first serve. You pick up that call, that's your lead, So that's the way it goes.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we'll try and just crush through these questions, Albert. So what are the splits on the leads the company generates is a question.
Okay. So we have our splits, everybody starts off at a 50-50, and it's a progressive team split, meaning everybody starts off, you join us yesterday and you're at a 50-50, and then that goes up depending on your production. So we have a graduation commission split, and then that gets reset on your anniversary. So usually our experience, and the entire team can vouch for this, we're feeding you easily double or more than any friend or family that you would be able to bring on. But we do have if it's a seasoned agent, which we don't have right now, right? If we were going to recruit for a seasoned agent, we are putting together a program that if you're a seasoned agent and you get like a lot of business from all your past clients and referrals, and you want a team structure, we do have something like that for it. But yeah, for the most part, everybody else here they're literally starting their real estate career with us. And everybody starts out at 50-50.
Awesome. Okay. So a question is, do you have any admins? I think I can answer the question that you do all of the admin work, but do you have somebody else that gets in here and does things for you?
So, sadly, our admin, she was with us for a very long time. She had to go, and that was just about 2-3 weeks ago. So that's like that's a recent thing that just happened to us. But the admin would do a lot of stuff for us. They would do, and aside from transaction coordinating, there was a lot of agent support that she provided as well. Right now, we're getting ready to hire another one. And for right now, and in these last 3 weeks, as far as administrative work on a transaction, we have someone that does it virtually for us.
Awesome.
But we're getting ready to rehire another one. So if you know of any good ones, please let me know.
And what about ISAs? Thoughts on hiring an ISA?
ISAs, it's a funny thing. I get it. I get where all these questions are coming from because I was there and I asked myself that question for a long time. We use Conversion Monster, right? They do a lot of our calls for us, and they're great. But the reality is they're great whenever we slack. So if we're not slacking, I think everybody needs to take a look at your activities, right? And if you go to let me see here, right, on agent activities, right? Yep. There's a metric that's really strong. Just do like this week, for example, right? And then do add column, right? This week.
Sorry, I'm just moving everything around on my screen.
This week, do add column, right? Go to the bottom, and there's going to be like percentage of leads not contacted. There's going to be somewhere in there, right? That's the response
Oh,
rate.
yeah. This one, not acted
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Not act or not called. So if you guys are a Follow Boss user, this is a great metric because look, if you have a lot of leads that are not acted on, you're not calling, it's time to A, get less leads, or B, get more people on the team, right? So like the idea here is, if for ISA, if you are consistently hitting your numbers, right, your 5 conversations a day, you're moving the needle, and you're still having a lot of leads that you can't reach out to, get some help. You know, either A, get some help, or B, slow down on your leads, right? But the idea is we use, to answer your question, we use Conversion Monster, but we have found that they do a great job whenever we don't reach out, right?
Awesome. Thanks, Albert. A few more. So we have a question, and this is a good one because I think there are a lot of new agents out there. And so the question is, I haven't sold anything because I just got my license basically, and then the virus shut my path down. What do I do now to get leads and listings? I'm only on social media trying to connect with that, or I am on social media trying to connect with everyone to ask for referrals, but any advice there to a new agent starting out in this time?
Yeah. You know, you got to start looking at people as relationships. Don't, you know, one of the first things I would tell you if you were to be on my team, stop saying, you know, I know that the reason I do it on a webinar is because, I mean, that's the language everybody else speaks, but don't call people leads. They're people, they're relationships, right? So for me, when I started back in the day, I mean, it was very simple. The metric was more relationships. More relationships equals more business. So whatever can be your source, get it. I can tell you this, there's a reason why we do Facebook. It's the cheapest way to get new relationships. It's just that simple, right? Go to Facebook, go to Lab Code Agents, go somewhere and learn how to run Facebook campaigns. If you're in Keller Williams, we have a great platform, right, where it does all the thinking for you. You just click 3 buttons and all of a sudden you spend $20 and you're getting like whatever, like you're getting, I think with $20 you'd be able to get about 25, 40 leads. Let me tell you this, you know, our industry does not have a lead generating issue. It's very easy to generate a lead. What we do have is a lead follow-up issue. And a lot of people are just gonna, like, my question to that agent that asked it, if I were to give you 100 leads right now, today, boom, drop up into your follow-up box, what are you gonna do, right? And if I were to say I'm gonna dump another 100 of them next month, what are you gonna do, right? Like, it's all about being organized on making sure no one's dropped the ball. You know, one of the things I'll constantly do on my list is I'll take a look at one of the agent's accounts and I look at all their leads and I'm like, okay, who have you not called in over like 2 months? Like, whoa, that's a major drop of ball, right? Like, either A, they're classified as cold, where, you know, maybe you should be reaching out to them, you know, depending on their on the classifications, every 45 days to every 60 days. But I mean, everyone should be contacted. So to answer the question in a very simple way, find ways to keep on adding people into your database. The MREA book has a suggestion that you should be adding, I think, somewhere around 10 to 20 people. I think it was 10 people, right? 10 people a day or something like that. I forgot what it is. But just keep on adding people into your database. And that is not by just necessarily asking for referrals, right? That could be door knocking whenever that, you know, it comes back again. That could be just running $20 Facebook leads every single week, and you're going to get a few people. And you're going to have to know how to, you know, go through those that are not interested and those that are saying that that's the wrong number. Like, you gotta, that's still a warm call versus circle prospecting or calling for sale by owners and expired, where you're calling people that didn't register for you. I like calling people that registered because it's a warm call.
Yeah, that's great. Such good advice. We've got a couple more questions, but we're going to have to wrap time-wise. I grab those questions and we'll do our best to get some answers out to people. And Albert, I think we'd love to have you back on. I mean, you've got some great stuff going on. You've made people think about a lot of great things and brought up some great questions. So I want to thank you for being on. I really want to thank you for working through all the technical difficulties and your power. I hope your family's all okay with
we're okay. Power's still not back up, and the house is just in darkness. And I just ran into the kitchen window, and that's where I'm at. I've been hanging here.
It's still no power. We really appreciate you. You gave some great advice. We'll share out this recording with everybody on, and we'll do our best to get your questions answered. But thanks again, Albert, for being on, and we'll definitely have you back on really soon.
Thanks, Lee, and thanks, Megan. You guys have been great.
Thanks so much, Albert.